I was born in East Prussia, which was a German outpost up in the east, bordering Poland and Lithuania. We left in '45 with a retreating German army and went to West Germany. In West Germany, I took an apprenticeship in a blacksmith shop and became journeyman there. And after I done my stint there, I wasn't gonna get drafted, so I volunteered. And after my time was up, I was pretty much through with the whole thing. I wanted to have something new. I never did really grow roots in Western Germany. And I immigrated to Canada. It was my first stop. And that was pretty traumatic because I couldn't speak French and I couldn't speak English. But I had an advantage that I was a machinist. And where you don't really need much language. You get a blueprint and you do your job, and that's about it. Plus, in Canada, Montreal especially, it's a real melting pot, so all nations are there, so it was pretty easy to get the job and work for 75 cents an hour initially. And so after 5 years, I had enough for that and put the papers in for America. And we took the car and drove from Montreal all the way to Californian coast. Wound up in Foster City. And that was very strange. By that time, I was used to cultural changes, so that Canada experience sort of geared me right for America. Well, it was only me. It was only I. Yeah, I got married here with my fiancée, which I met in Germany already, and we immigrated together to Canada. Then, Canada. I love Canada. The only problem was the wages are very low and the weather is pretty severe. In the summertime it's fine, but the winter is 8 months. So we sent one of my comrades. He went to California first and he wrote how it was here. So then we decided to come over here too. And when we got here, then we found out that he died in a car crash. That was our connection gone. When I came out of the service, pretty much lost contact with the place I lived last, which I only lived there for 4 years. And when I came back there, some of my friends were married already, and so I basically had no... my mother was living there, but she was retired, and bottom line, I was ready for something different, something new to experience. It was difficult and difficult. The difficulty was to get the immigration visa, and that took some time. And then basically it was hard initially to find a job, not knowing how to speak, not knowing how, the traffic in Montreal is pretty severe, so sink or swim. Yeah, I decided to swim. 62. Well, there again, we had difficulties with the paperwork because the American embassy didn't contact me for a long time, for about a half year. So I finally went there and said, "Sorry, what's wrong?" And they said, "Well, you lied on your application for immigration because you were born in Russia," which, historically it was incorrect because that part of, which is now Russia, was German. After the war, they straightened out the border and it became Russia. So I had to explain it to him. And then I got the paper pretty quick after that one. And then as far as the job was concerned, it wasn't hard because as a machinist, that was one of the requirements here in this country, that you had to have a skill. A skill, and you had to have a car, and you had to have $300 cash. Or a sponsor, but I didn't know anybody here, so sponsor was out. So, but that went pretty fast with them. Well, it was different. The German culture is pretty much straight up. The laws are so that the lines are pretty clear drawn. Lawyers is a dirty word over there. There's no parole. If you're convicted of something, you do the time. That's it. So everybody knew everybody knows pretty much how to behave. You're either on the right side or you're on the back. So in the United States, it was hard to figure out what is what, because number one, the laws change all the time. Number two, the lawyers are prevalent in the law. You cannot really go into the system unless you have a lawyer. I lost one house which I bought because of some contract was written out wrong, and the law couldn't enforce. Anyway, so everything is compared to German. It's not straight away. It's not straight line. An old professor told me in Germany when I took some courses in English, says, "Where do you want to go?" And I said, "Well, Canada, and eventually maybe America." Well, you have to understand the laws, because America is, even now, the Wild West. Everybody shoots from the hips, and I didn't understand what he was saying. And it took me nearly 10 years before I really understand how this country works. It's not easy to, it's not easy. Once you're used to one way, to find out, where is the line, how far you can step over it, what are the consequences, and so on, how much money you got. You hire a good lawyer, you get away with a lot. You don't hire a lawyer, you basically get screwed. So that was scary. That was difficult. When you immigrate, you're sort of in a shock or in a dream. Whatever comes, you take that. Nothing surprises you because you don't know any different in the first place. So, and understanding the people was really understanding Americans. It's for Europeans, it's not easy. They misunderstand the culture here, and I had it a little easier because I already came from Eastern Europe, Eastern Germany. I came to the West. I already was in this situation where I felt like a refugee. That was the name there, called as Flüchtling. So I already had my ears, I already was tuned for prejudice and stuff like that. Never really did understand it, but it took me a while, I guess a lot of people in this country don't understand prejudice either. I followed my education all the way through working for big corporations. And then I got into my own business, which was a totally different story. But I could have not done that in Germany because the bureaucracy in Germany to start a business is, it's pretty rough. It takes a long time. Over here, get a business permit, $30. You're in business. And the taxes and all that stuff is easier here. You pay it or you don't. If you don't pay it, they'll catch you. Different again, the laws. I don't think I would function over there. Oh, another thing, I built my own house here, which is nearly impossible over there. Over here, when you finance yourself and you own a builder, don't need an architect. You can do your own architect. Build a house like that over in Germany would have been impossible. The people from South America are in a different situation. Because of their political structure there, they cannot trust their own government. They can basically don't have much of a future. And then I believe that they're caught between a rock and a hard spot. Basically, I didn't have to immigrate. If I would have stayed in Germany, I would have gone into civil service. I would have kept my rank, and I would have sitting behind the desk, fat belly. It wasn't my game. But these people, they are starving. They see this, they leave everything, they see this as the paradise. And so I cannot blame them, and I cannot blame the American thought on the whole matter. Now, I don't know what the immigration laws have changed, because I told you the requirements I had to meet when I came here. And there was a quota also by nation. So when the German quota was wide open, Italian, Turkish quota was closed, couldn't come in this country. And I think, yeah, definitely Mexican quota. I'm not even sure if they have a quota system anymore. I think now it goes by, if you have family here, you may apply for a visa. And but they are persecuted, and they ask for asylum. So there's a whole different thing going on here. You know, that is a global asylum law. The United Nations and the Americans adopted that and bought into that. You know, yeah, it's very, you don't know who really would qualify for. You have to be persecuted. You cannot immigrate for capital gains. My case actually that was because if you have a trade and you have the money, no, it's not. Now, in other words, they wanted skilled people, and they wanted the people not going on the social security system. So it's a different thing going on.